you may have another question you'd like to start off with, but we've been dancing around Alpha Protocol quite hard here, so I feel like we should just, dig in.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite boomer shooter, Alpha Protocol.
Yeah.
Yes. What's the question?
Well, I know that you had that, speaking of intros that probably took a little bit to make, that Lord of War style intro, I believe it was, and that recent Make Games Last Forever, and that kind of reminded me, of Alpha Protocol, the deep dive from a while back. Short of doing the project with GOG, is there anything that you're like personally kind of investing your time in, or any connections that you've made that you're kind of like, I can kind of influence this and more than just making, one for the game I'm known for kind of thing?
It's so, in a way, I can kind of maybe answer this question by going on like a bit of a different tangent, which can also maybe answer something else, which is the main thing that I'm kind of, one of the main challenges that I'm currently navigating right now, and one of the reasons that you haven't seen a years later video specifically in a while, and it's kind of been most of these original ones in the last while, is the vision that I have to kind of take the videos to the next level is at this point that I don't personally have the ability to reach, that if I were to collaborate with other people to get, I then wouldn't have the financial means to keep going. So that GOG video, I'm very proud of it. I'm very pleased with it. It's one of those situations where it legitimately could not have arrived at a more perfect time, because it arrived at exactly at this point where I was feeling kind of just starting to recover from this kind of this period of low self-esteem, that then when they came along and initiated the discussion about, originally they were just going to kind of have me on, sort of like as a consultant or like a producer or somebody kind of going to write the thing or whatever. And as we kept talking further and further and further and further, then there was that kind of point where I was like, are you sure you just want me to give advice on this? Because it kind of seems like you could just, hire me entirely. And then, my contact was like, yeah, we're actually kind of hoping you would kind of say that and kind of go for that way. So it kind of all came together perfectly though, because they had a professional video team to capture the interviews themselves at GOG. They had, obviously, the subjects. They had somebody, one of the employees who now works at CD Projekt, Patrick Mills, he happened to work at Obsidian on Alpha Protocol. So we had, kind of our game, developer kind of directly attached. And, just all these sort of things that kind of came together where it was exactly the type of video that I could make, that I was incredibly confident about in the time window that I was given and with the extra resources that I could use. That's the part that I'm satisfied about, is the end result. There is disappointment in it though, that when originally getting the idea, I was hoping to take the video to that next level that I had been envisioning. That original opening sequence that is the homage or ripoff of Lord of War, depending on which route you want to take, I wanted to do that like live action. I wanted to take like actual use cases and surround, me around them on the floor and like really get the kind of the camera movement in the shot exactly 1-to-1 in the turnaround and everything like that. I wanted to kind of take it to that next level, but we just did not have the time, and we did not have I did not have the budget to be able to afford those. I was given a budget on that project, but the way that it worked was that is your pay essentially. And being that I live in Vancouver, don't make a whole ton of money, I, took that most of that cash and pocketed it, and half of it already went away immediately because I went to go get aligners. I went to go get Invisalign and get that taken care of. So that was like $8,000 gone just instantaneously. So that's the thing, is that like I said, that project could not have been more perfectly timed, but there is that desire to, when I'm thinking of these videos, I'm already thinking of them in the context of the grand scale image. I'm thinking of them with the live action subjects, with a really good CG transition, with all the developers attached, with being able to go to the studio and get like behind the scenes look and also go through their archives and stuff like that. But that is way a lot of teams struggle to do that with their budget. So let alone doing it by yourself, let alone, in the midst of playing the game constantly and writing constantly and editing the whole thing, it's just a little bit too much. So I hope to take that, to that kind of next level at some point. And I am, steadily working towards that, but it's going to take time. And in the meantime, there's a lot of, I don't know what the word is. There's a lot of self-commitment that I kind of have to remind myself that, hey, this is a really fucking great position to be in. Like, yeah, you're not getting to make sort of the videos that you're exactly imagining, but you're getting to say exactly what's on your fucking mind. You get to present it in a way that is still meeting a standard that you have set for yourself many, many years ago. And, like, my original dream gig was like being a reviewer at GameSpot. Like, this is way fucking better than that. Like, what was I thinking? Like, why would I want to work for like, CBS and like working in a cubicle and having to play RoboCop, on the Xbox, or anything like that, at least in my case, if I'm playing a game like Alpha Protocol or Shadow After Red Mercury, or in this case, Perfect Dark Zero, it's because I'm choosing to. It's not because I have to. I've done those 2 out of 10 reviews for COG. They're not fun. They're not enjoyable. They're not a good time.
Can confirm. I did that King Kong game from like a year ago, and I thought, I'm going to do King Kong, and I'm going to go right into Gollum, right? It's going to be this inverted slope. It's just going to be this, descent, race to the bottom. And
you
King
see,
Kong,
my ears perked up at King Kong because I was immediately thinking of the 2005 game.
Peter
That's
Jackson.
classic.
I rewatched the video just because it popped up the other day, and I was like, oh my god, Raycevick talked about this. Let's do this, because that's just like one of my personal favorites. But holy shit, that Skull Island thing is just like a tragedy. And I thought, you know what? I can't do that. I can't do it to myself with Gollum. There's no way.
No, it's, I don't know if you guys had this experience too, but one of the things that can happen with a review site, or at least in the case that I was in, is that, so a game like Metal Gear Solid 5 comes in, and obviously every reviewer puts their hand up of like, oh yeah, pick me. I want to, be the one to review that fucking game. But, then something, comes in like Gollum. And suddenly everybody's really busy that week. And I have an Xbox. I can't use it that time, So like, in many ways, I kind of came a point there where I was doing this kind of thing of just like, I would just put my hand up and kind of immediately, because it's sort of like, yeah, no, like somebody's going to have to take this. So instead of just, randomly assign somebody to it, how about, I use it as a learning exercise, How do you make a 3 out of 10 driving game interesting in a review? And I'm not sure if I accomplished that, but I tried at the very least.
It's at least a way better prompt than, this was really good and I liked it. It made me feel good. Like, it's actually hard to express it in a way that is interesting and not just like you reading somebody your diary entry.
No, not to go on another thing too, but like one of my goals generally is I want the videos that I make to have at least some kind of narrative through line. And when I say narrative, a story, I don't mean like, Shakespeare. I don't mean, opening of Citizen Kane or thing like that. It doesn't need to be so grand. It doesn't need to be kind of so moving. It just needs to have a structure that is more interesting than game good, game bad. There should be, kind of some other arc or some question that gets asked at the start that is concluded by the end. That inspiration mainly came from stuff like Top Gear. It came from stuff like old, like Super Bunny Hop in particular. Super Bunny Hop on YouTube is probably my biggest influence in terms of the work, in terms of the way that it's presented and structured. And a lot of his videos that he's made are still some of my favorites that have ever been posted on that platform. That's a lot of the time, I think Noodle made a video about this on his other channel, his kind of Quickies channel. And I wrote a comment about this, that the majority of the writing, as it were, is not really even writing, it's structuring. It's whenever I write paragraphs and I delete them, I put them in an archive to save, because typically at some other later draft, I'll take that old paragraph and pluck it back in there. Because now it finally has a place to be suited. So as a result, you can end up making a video that is, say, 4,000, 5,000 words, and then the archive of all the deleted stuff can end up being just as long as that, if not longer. So you effectively have just written 2 videos worth to make one.